here's Brody Brazil.
Well, this is devastating news for the 2020 Oakland A's. Here on Saturday, September 12th, we have just learned that Matt Chapman, the team's third baseman, their platinum glover, their all-star, their team leader, he's going to miss the rest of this season with a right hip injury, one that requires surgery, and that's going to take place on Monday. It had been a rough season for Chapman, 37 games playing through this injury, and at times recently, you could see it. His final 3 games, he had struck out an uncharacteristic 10 times. But overall in this season, a .232 average, but 10 homers and 25 RBI, and still was able to make some highlight reel type defensive plays that we know he's capable of. But again, he'd been playing through this the entire season. It just became too much. Now, in the last couple days, we knew he was in Colorado getting a second opinion on this hip. We also know that he's in the hands of the best doctors around. What we don't know about this injury now is how long the recovery process is going to take. Remember, we are mid-September here of 2020, and who knows what happens in a next baseball season. But obviously a late season injury like this, one that could potentially take months to recover from, that's a big deal for Chapman. And again, we will not know the severity of any of this or how it goes until after the procedure is done. But what we do know is nobody hates this more than Matt Chapman. I know fans are disappointed. I'm upset at just the circumstance. There's really nothing to be mad at, like anything happened here. It's just a frustrating scenario, but I know nobody is taking this harder than Matt Chapman. So we wish him the best. Now, there's a couple of questions and topics to try and answer here. I want to run through them. I think about 5 of them in total. Playoff impact for Oakland, right? That's the very first thing that I think everybody would talk about. No question, this is a severe hit on and off the field. A's manager Bob Melvin called it a big blow earlier this morning. Chapman is an impact player on the field, top 3 hitter usually in your lineup, an everyday player at third base. If you're going to tell me shortstop is the most important position defensively on the field, I would have to argue and make the point that third base is not far behind that. But also this, a team leader is Matt Chapman off the field. Their clubhouse voice, their team DJ. It's not that this team or this group needs constant motivation. They don't need somebody to necessarily keep them in line. But Matt Chapman was one of the players that helped that happen for this group ever since he came up in 2017. Like even when he was brand new to Major League Baseball, you could already see those leadership tendencies. So I think as much as we can evaluate, and we will in just a second, what side of the game do the A's miss Chapman more, with the bat or with the glove? I would also like to interject that third aspect of just personality and leadership. I think that's going to be a huge void that this group will hopefully get from other places. All right, topic number 2, current mood of this group. You cannot imagine that it's great right now. They are going through a difficult stretch, playing a doubleheader today, series finale tomorrow, travel to Seattle, another doubleheader for one day on Monday, and then travel to Colorado for another series that starts on Tuesday. So busy stretch, chaotic stretch. It's already going to be tough enough without one of your key players. But yeah, this is a huge absence. I would also say that because times are so busy, maybe there's not as much dwelling over this. The A's are going to have to get through this, get past it, get over it as soon as they can. And playing that many games, it's like 10 games in a 7-day span that this group is on. That's going to help them in this process to get past missing Matt Chapman. And I'm not saying that it's going to be easy to do. I'm just saying that time and games and going at this rate of speed is going to help the process go quicker. But yeah, I mean, the mood of this group can't be great. Go across professional sports. Take one of, if not the top player away from any team and tell me how you think that group's doing. All right, third topic here. What's going to be missed more, Chapman's bat or his glove? And I actually think here, with only about 17 games left in the regular season, I think that's where we're at, kind of losing track. Offense might be the name of the game right now, but we know playoff baseball is all about defense. And Matt Chapman is all about that platinum glove. And consider the 1 or 2 or 8 defensive gems that he might make and complete if he were in these playoffs for the Oakland A's. And those plays, and I'm not saying that other players aren't capable of some, but are they capable of all the defense and all the runs saved that Matt Chapman has been a part of since coming up to the big leagues in 2017? Again, it's not a knock to anybody else here, right? And we will talk options in just a second of what players fill in. But I also want to make clear that you're not talking about just an ordinary third baseman. You're talking about somebody special. So yeah, the playoffs are won with defense, and you just lost a platinum glover. So I think the glove is going to be missed more than the bat, although when healthy, we know what Chapman's bat is capable of. That brings us to who fills in at third base. You got 4 options that stand out to me as of right now. Chad Pinder, let's begin with him. Great track record, strong arm at third, great pop with the bat. We know the power capability that he's got. I don't necessarily see him hitting like higher in the lineup, but I do see him as a great 5 or 6 hitter for Oakland and playing a pretty strong defensive third base. I think we know what we're going to get in a very good way from a Chad Pinder. Vimael Machin, a young player, just came up this season, has played some shortstop in place of Marcus Semien already. Strong arm, pretty good glove. I don't know that the bar has been set for him yet. I think we're still figuring him out. But I'd also like to add, I like what we've seen from Machin so far, and not just defensively. This guy gets on base to a very high clip. So great at bats, solid defensively. I don't think the A's mind him as an option one bit. Tommy La Stella, another player that the A's recently brought in. They acquired him from the Angels in that trade before the deadline. Now, again, somebody's got to play second base here. I don't want to take away all the second base options, and we know that's kind of one of the reasons they brought La Stella in, but we also know he can play third base. So a veteran player, he's got some years and games under his belt. I'd feel tremendously confident with him at third base, but I also want to say this too. He's got to be in the lineup somewhere, regardless, because this is a player who has the lowest strikeout rate across Major League Baseball. And yeah, the A's strike out a lot. They need a player like La Stella who's constantly doing something in his at-bats, constantly getting on base, and constantly being productive. So I think we're going to see La Stella somewhere, maybe or maybe not, at third base. And last but not least, I want to mention the name Tony Kemp. I know that's probably not option A1 right now for third base because of these other guys. But again, this team still needs a second baseman. It's also nice to know that a player like Kemp could come across to the hot corner and fill in just in case that's a requirement or a necessity. All right. And last but not least here, I'm feeling down. I'm not feeling great about this. How could you? But what reasons are there to stay optimistic? The main one for me is that this is a group that the A's have been built on depth. Right? Look at their rotation, look at their bullpen, look at their position players. But that depth is about to get tested greatly. We've seen this team overcome injuries in seasons prior, key starters, key position players, and we've also seen these injuries happen at unfortunate times. And yes, this here down the stretch of 2020 is an unfortunate time, but I would also just like to say Chapman has been dealing with it all season. It's gotten progressively worse. It's not like this just happened. It's been happening. But I would also throw this in there. We know that many other big league teams are also struggling with key injuries and nagging injuries to other players. So don't be surprised in a postseason situation if the team Oakland is going up against is also missing one of their top figures on the other side. To conclude all this, saying that the A's will not drastically miss Matt Chapman is completely wrong. You cannot say that. They are going to drastically miss Matt Chapman on and off the field. But in respecting the entire group and what this team is built on and what they're made of, saying they cannot survive without Matt Chapman is also a mistake.